Hello, everyone. Welcome to the impromptu weekend stream of Ascension World Building. I am Zach, and joining me this evening is my co host, Tom or Thomas, and
Welcome.
we are going to be cleaning up. This is the weekend stream, so our big priority here is to take everything that we learned from the Tuesday stream and make it sound better or make it look better. Um, if chat pulls us off in a different direction, lovely, no problem. Um, Assuming that no one does, or assuming that chat loves taking us in the direction that we're going to plan on going, we're going to stick right there. So the two areas that we're probably going to be fleshing out are the starting zone that we talked about over here on the Pirate Cove with Catherine on Tuesday. And then we might also hop over here and take a look at this other area that we have now named Errant Crossing or the Tusk. We're going to start naming a few things, and you're going to see some more names popping up just so we have a point of reference because it's very hard to write adventures, write lore content, all of that good stuff without at least some names to hold on to. So,
Yeah,
any,
the other thing we talked about is maybe fleshing out. We talked about the jagged strait, which happens to be that strait there between um, where we have marked the Tusk and the Eggshell Peaks, or that strait between the Pirate Kingdoms and our crater.
yep.
So
The,
I think we're cruising along. I think we're doing really well. Last week we fleshed out some of um, the Pirate Kingdom, what we are going to go with the Revis Lord in the top left corner.
mm-hmm.
So of the Pirate Kingdom,
Lovely.
I think we are going to maybe go into a little bit more detail in that city, see if
Mm-hmm.
we really can't flesh out the things that are there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm real excited about. So Revis is our word for water genasi, and I think that there's some really cool things to toy around with that race uh, and kind of make it its own unique part of this world. Again, genasi or elemental races are going to be a big part of our world, and so a big part of that is giving them prominent positions within the kingdoms. Uh,
Absolutely. Have you? Do we want to give a little spoiler of the Revis, or do we want to leave that one for another time?
what do you? I mean, go for it. Go for it.
So let me pull this up here. So I have been working for the last probably 2 days making some sub races for what we are calling Elemental Born.
Mm-hmm.
So Elemental Born are what would be referred to in WotC or Wizards of the Coast as Genasi.
Yep.
And you have what we are calling pure Korg, which is our Earth Elemental Born, our pure Sutai, which are your elemental fireborn, your pure ether, which are our elemental born air elemental, and your pure Revis, which are water elemental.
Mm-hmm.
And we got some cool things there. We have what would happen, and Zach and I were talking, and we thought about the fact of what happens with all the races in fantasy settings when you have a mix. So you have like a half elf, which is a like a humanized elf, and it's what normally when your human features are coming through on a elf. Correct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what we have done is we have made half elementals for when basically two elementals of two different pures um, make a child, and you get a. We have some really cool offshoots that I'm going to save some of them for later.
Mm-hmm.
But our Korg are our Earth elementals, as I said, or Earth or elemental born. They're not earth elementals. They're humanoid, medium creatures. Still have sort of the same affinities for spells all the way through. But there is some really cool things. So our Revis, and we were talking about what are the extra ones. So our Revis is, if you play a Revis, you are going to get. Here, let me pull it up. I have this cheat sheet here. On the Revis, you're going to get your +2 to Wisdom, your +1 to Constitution, and you're going to have a resistance to Acid, with some other cool things as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So our goal is that if you're familiar with Genasi, they're going to be very familiar to you, but whereas Genasi really just have the 4 sub-races, we are going to have each one of the 4 sub-races be their own race, and then all of those races will have their own sub-races, so there's a lot more variety.
So there'll be 16 different kinds of elemental borns you can play. Mm-hmm. There's 3 sub-races for every pure elemental born, which turns into the 1 pure and then the 3 sub-races for each one, which means 16.
Yep.
So with our Revis, you get some additional fun things, which are really cool. Of course, as I said, the ability score would be increased. For a pure Revis would be Wisdom +2 and Constitution +1. You would be resistance to acid damage. You would be amphibious, so you could breathe air and water. You would also have a swim speed of 30 feet. Plus, you would have a spell affinity that we haven't locked down yet, but we're working on some really cool things to add to sort of that lore and background for your character.
Absolutely. Sweet. Well, couple things before we dive into this area here. I want to draw your attention to the center of the screen, and you will see that we have dropped a new logo in the center of the screen. Not a true logo, but a nice font, and it says Ascension World Building. Basically, that's because the Drifters Atlas is now going to have several things on its channel, right? It's not just going to be world building. It's not just going to be this stream. On Monday, you can tune in, and we will have the first episode of Dungeon. So we're really excited about doing a live play here on the stream, where we do a dungeon crawl of my own design over the next several months. So definitely have a look at that, and that will also be right here on the Drifters Atlas. So you'll have the Ascension world building stream, and you'll have the dungeon live play.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Zach. Since you are our DM, mm-hmm. That is going to be like our session 0 introduction to dungeon, correct?
Yep. So my plan is, I think it's going to work really nicely. We're going to do an hour and change probably will be the session 0, where we finish building everybody's characters, and we kind of get an introduction to not the world necessarily, but the area and the premise of dungeon. Then we'll probably take an intermission, and then we will dive into what I'm calling the intro to the adventure. And we will probably only play that for an hour or so, but we'll get ourselves to the door, so to speak, so that our true session 1 will be fully immersed into the dungeon.
What's nice is you can see one of the cool things about dungeon is we're going to have some really unique characters playing. So if you join us for session 1 on Monday, session 0 on Monday, you can really learn a little bit more about the classes, things that Zach has published before on places like the DM's Guild.
Yep. So we have a couple people that are playing my custom creations. We have some people that are playing straight by the book, and then we have some people that are perhaps playing UA or Critical Role wild mount material for their characters. So we're going to have a good mix. The benefit of a dungeon is that I don't have to give a reason for why all of these different things exist in the world, because you guys aren't going to be part of the world at large, right? You're gonna be stuck in a dungeon for week after
And on
week
top
after
of
week.
it,
Yes.
we are Zach and I are both playing in the live streams of Jasper's Game Day next week.
Absolutely. Well, it's the
So,
fourth. It's a
yeah, I guess so. It's the week after this,
mhm.
so it's
But
about 10 days.
yep. So we'll announce that again on the next Tuesday stream, and we'll
Hmm.
be playing in that game in on the Tuesday of the fourth. So I'll probably have to wear a Star Wars shirt on that day. I'm just forewarning you. It being
I think it's the 5th.
oh,
Isn't it
it's
Tuesday
probably
the
the
5th?
fifth. Yeah, it
I
probably
think it's
is.
Cinco de Mayo.
Well, you missed that by you missed a
You might
major
have to wear a
holiday.
Star Wars shirt
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, you missed a major holiday by one day, Thomas. It's a sad deal.
Yeah, yeah. Let's be honest. I was not the one that they were begging to come DM. They had some great names on that stream, and I
Yeah.
just am lucky enough to be DMing alongside of a lot of the great DMs.
Next year, though, they'll learn their lesson, and you'll be first on their list. So.
Yeah, and the great part is that if you guys are watching this week, and we'll say it again as we go through this week, but we are debuting our first adventure that will be published on that stream.
Yeah, the first section of that adventure. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's only a 2 hour game, but it's going to be our first playthrough of our of the Ascension world.
Yep. Real
Awesome.
excited about that. So, anyhow, just wanted to throw out a couple news updates before we dove in. But
Yeah, I think that's going to be a lot of what these Saturdays are, sort of talking back and forth and sort of going over the world, but also sort of informing anybody of what's going on and seeing if we can't keep things rolling.
mm-hmm.
Awesome. Let's jump in. Where do you want to jump in? Do you want to jump in into the gnome settlement? Do you want to jump into our wizard's tower?
I would. So I am itching to put some name tags on things, Thomas. I don't know how you feel about that, but
I'm awesome with that.
could we do just a naming thing for a little bit and
Absolutely.
cool because we've got stuff to name. Let's start
That's the
with that.
wrong keyboard.
We know a little bit about that wizard's tower already, right?
Yep.
I'm gonna view my little zoom in here if I can. Boop. Where could I find on legend on your legend keeper here, Thomas? Where could I
Mm-hmm.
find information from our last stream with Catherine?
With the wizard's tower and things.
It's in the Undine
It's
City. Yep.
it's
Yep.
under the Undine City. Yep. Or
Perfect.
what I've changed now to the Revis.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. So we know that the wizard that is currently okay. So we got a lot of talk about, right? Because we know that the current resident of that tower is a fellow named Stan Warwick, right?
Stan Warwick. Yep.
But we talked about, without giving too much away, we talked about Inquisitors, if you'll remember last week.
Yep.
But I think it makes sense that uh, this tower was probably in existence. Um, these are not the first residents. We'll put it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, we also talked about like the Revis Pirate King or Pirate Lord has saved this Stan Warwick and put him up in this tower, right, from a
Yep.
different city.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
you got to put it up that big, right? You got to make that tower giant.
I can't make it any bit smaller, so it might have to be. Uh, but that's all right.
I saw it when you originally pulled the sticker.
Oh yeah.
It was massive. It took up 70 miles or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it's only a 10-mile tall.
Exactly. Well, it's flavor, right? It's
Mm.
attitude. Um, so this tower is 100% not Stan Warwick's OG tower, right?
No.
This is something that he's built, but um, we don't know who built it. So let's figure that out. What should we name this sucker?
So I would assume that a man like or a gnome like Stan Warwick would have renamed this tower.
Hmm, that's fair. Mm-hmm.
If this guy is as um, as self-important as we've talked to him about,
Mm-hmm.
being. He has more than likely renamed this tower in his image.
Mm-hmm. Let
I
me.
don't know if that's true or not, but
I think that's a fair assessment, right? When a knight takes on livery, right? He kind of brands himself, right? And the same thing I think is true with wizards, where they want their brand to be recognized, and so it doesn't behoove them to call this the Gray Tower if they're a freaking flamboyant wizard, right? Um, uh, so it's probably something that sounds impressive, and it's probably something on
we've
brand.
talked about this guy probably having some more powers than um, than maybe everyone knows, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So maybe um, maybe it's a tie-in to something. Maybe it's a like what they would call an Easter egg in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the name of this tower ties into whatever he's doing that you haven't talked about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um,
So, um, like the Dark Tower, or and you could be the Dark Tower because it was made out of like maybe it was burnt at one point or something.
mm-hmm. Dark Tower is the name of a Stephen King series, so we probably want to
Gotcha. Yep,
avoid it.
that's probably true.
Keep that, but uh,
Um, uh, Sort of drawn a blank. Let me pull open something to.
well, okay. So let me pose this to you. It's a tower of keeping an eye on things, and it's got an eye freaking in the top of it, right? So
Yes,
so it probably has something to do with that, right? Maybe it's called something like this. Maybe it's called the Eye Spire.
that's that's really good already. Um,
I don't necessarily think it's right there because I don't want it to be called the I Spy by all my players, right?
ooh, yep. I think you're right.
But
So we have things like the elemental mast. I'm just gonna throw some out. None of these have to be right. I'm on a generator.
mm-hmm,
Um, the Rose Hill Lookout or something lookout.
mm-hmm.
Trader Cave Tower, the Phoenix Tower. Uh,
Dale Kingsmill,
Wraith Isle Lookout.
Dale Kingsmill in a recent uh, YouTube video talked about how important naming things is, and you're getting to see this in real time. If you can stumble across
Yeah.
the right name, uh, everything else flows from that.
Um, Heirloom Park Obelisk, Tower Cave Obelisk.
Oh, I
How do
like.
you feel about Obelisk?
Is it Obelisk?
Yep.
Okay. Um, I like obelisk as the last word. Um,
The Eternal Forest Obelisk.
too wordy.
You could talk. Yep.
Like it
And
needs to be
that
something short and punchy in front of obelisk, right?
you could call it the Soulless Obelisk, which would be sort of ironic because it's not for solace. It would be they'd be spying on people.
Oh, you know what? I really like. So it's solace. You said
Solace. Yeah. Sorry, I read it wrong originally.
Solace.
Mm-hmm.
I just like Solace Tower. Just as something like it's just something real like clean, without without seeming overly dramatic. But it kind of the word solace to me is a wizard saying uh,
Leave me
GTFO.
alone.
Yeah, exactly
Yep.
right. Like I'm gonna move
Ooh,
this.
I love this name. It's the Behemoth Peak Lookout. It's not right for this item at all, but I just like the Behemoth Peak Lookout.
I like Behemoth Peak a lot. Yeah, we'll have to keep that word in mind for another thing. What about this town? Uh, I mean, the town is gonna. You know what the town is, right? If just Solace,
Yep.
right? I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong.
Um, I think Solace might be from Dragonlands.
So, yep, I'm wrong.
I gotta look it up.
Well, it auto-filled, so I
Yep.
think you're right. Yep,
Solace is from Dragonlands. So
yep.
you could still use Solace Tower,
But you wouldn't want to use Solace for the
but
town.
you wouldn't want it to be.
Yeah.
Oh, we have somebody new. Hello, I'm Mangasol. And they say hi, Zach.
Hey, how you
Welcome.
doing? I know exactly who that is. Um, I won't name names here on the stream, but he
Yeah.
is one of my favorite, absolute favorite players um, in Adventurers League at conventions. So, really glad to have
Awesome.
you stop by.
Welcome.
Thomas, my co-host here, is also a Bald Man GM, and we are building a world together that will eventually become a Kickstarter product. So we are neck deep into building out a new little corner of the world, and we're welcome for you to hang out as long as you'd like. Offer any suggestions. We love adding people's suggestions into this world. Right now, we're naming things. So if you like naming things, you're at the right place.
Or if you want to build out Pirate Kings, we can stop naming things and head to Pirate King.
Yes, exactly. Right now, we are
Zach,
naming.
I'm going to go ahead and. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say. Right now, we are naming uh, a a a small town that has a location called Solace Tower inside of it.
While we start naming things over the next weeks, I am going to put a pin in the top of Legend Keeper
Mm-hmm.
with just different names that we come up with that we like that aren't the right fit right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just that way we can easy access as we go.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. That works for me. Let's see. Solace. Solace Tower. Let's see. We're gonna name this town something nice and simple, but it's also probably a newer town because the pirates aren't going to have had this location for a super long time. Um,
And so the way this works, Amengasol, is that I am working on the top left, and that is a program called Legend Keeper that is through Patreon right now. And it's sort of a one note to build your campaign. What it does is it lets you upload images and you can keep notes, as you can see as Zach has it open on our Twitch stream. You can see as we take notes in the stream to go through and build that world. Zach is working up in the top right over his picture, and that's a program called Wonder Draft, and you can find that at wonderdraft.com or .net. I'm not sure, but if you search Google Wonder Draft, it's a program you can purchase, and it's what built our map here. And Zach is working in our map building.
yep, yep. Wonderdraft.net, and we'll post a link there
Awesome.
in the chat. So, yep, Wonderdraft is super cool. I'll zoom out so you can kind of see more of it real quick, but we need to think of the name. So this is kind of our world so far, and we are writing adventures in this world. Cool. Right now, we are in the Pirate Kingdoms.
Our pirate kingdoms have what we like to think of as 8 pirate lords, and which encompass sort of our reskin of our elemental born, which are sort of a reskin of Genasi.
Mhm. What do you think about Solitude for the name of the town? Just a quick shift.
Yeah, it's enough that it doesn't ring that we're trying to take something else.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a nod to uh, uh, Superman here, right? In that he has
Oh
the
yeah,
Fortress of Solitude, but it's one step removed, and I don't feel like it's overt, so I think we're good there.
I think we
Um,
are good.
I like clean words like this that people are going to be that are going to remember easy. So a great example of this is Eberron, the new Eberron
Mm-hmm.
AL, the main town that everything happens around is Salvation, right? You name it
Mm-hmm.
something that people are already used to saying, and people are going to remember that name. Since this town is going to be important for our adventure, we want people to be able to remember the name. But if we decide we like something different, or if you have a different idea, you just let me know and we'll just change it. So we also need to name this big water genasi or our Rivas city down here. And we need to name this gnome city up here.
It's the Gnome City being across the river, right where the pin is on Legend Keeper.
Yes, let
Is
me.
that what we're thinking?
Yes, that's roughly where.
Near like the waterfall that you have linked in.
Yeah, roughly that. I mean, it's all in the same area, I think, pretty much. But yeah, I.
Yeah, it's all within the same 15 miles.
Yeah, yeah.
But I just want to make sure that we're on, since we're both working from two different places, we're not in a studio somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
that we are both speaking from it the same way.
Mm-hmm. And the only reason I pulled it off the coast is because we talked about it being in the forest, and I kind of wanted a
Mm-hmm.
way for that to be showcased.
That's
So
fine.
cool.
Especially with Solace or with Solitude being so close,
Mm-hmm.
that I think that some of the workers of the Gnome City have moved into Solitude.
Mm-hmm. Probably a small contingent because it is still an area of uh, mild tension. Obviously, they're building a wall right up here too, So even if this pirate
Mm-hmm.
lord's agreeable, there's one just across the way who's less so, right?
Yeah, and
Um,
I think that as I said, it was. I don't think that a good number of the force is, but the gnomes that are helping them build the wall and helping them get things done, people that are running like pickled Pete's and things like that, are all probably living close enough here.
yeah, yeah.
So there is a small subset of the city which is also gnomish.
Do you want to hear some of the names I've come up with for gnomes in this world to help name this city?
Okay,
Maybe that might help a little bit.
so gnomes in the world.
Gnomes in the world. These are gnomes in the world. Um,
Are these gnomes of note?
mild note. They're not
So
kings or
should I put
lords or.
should I put these in the should I write these down under our gnome heading for our gnome city?
They would might be better spent in the dig site heading because these are going to be
Okay.
from those. Yeah.
Okay, let me get over to our dig site. Okay. I am ready when you are.
Cool. So I know. Looks like I know two gnome names right off the top of my head.
Okay.
There is one who is called Gibraltar Dozen Dash. Gibraltar Dozen Dash. And then there is another one called
Okay.
right here. Let's see. Oh, it's up here. Apologize. I'm learning how to set up everything. Perfect. This other one is called Philbore. Philmore.
Just
Phil.
Fillmore.
Yes, that's the only thing they know about him so far is his name, Fillmore. I do need to add a note for him.
I feel like Fillmore smokes a pipe that's almost as long as he is.
Yeah, right. So
I know
here's
nothing about him, but
yeah. Fillmore and Gibraltar are militant. Like think uh, uh like the person that I was like these guys feel like him is Teddy Roosevelt, right?
gotcha.
Right. They are like the always in like
The BA gnomes.
yeah, yeah, and they've got Gibraltar has like a handlebar mustache, you know, like a polished dome of a head, um, and buff for a gnome older gentleman. And Fillmore is like the 10-year younger version. And he's got like a Fu Manchu going, but in a comb over. Um,
Oh,
yeah. But they're what I guess I'm saying is at least the gnomes in that area, which we've talked about them being two different types of gnomes, maybe. But the gnomes over in the dig site are very much like old war generals, like, and
okay.
that's why they're so. There's a part of the reason that they're so prolific and so renowned for their machinery, right, and their intelligence is that they are very much like stick to their guns. Um, you know, a man's worth is proven by his work, sort of a
By
attitude.
his actions.
Yeah, yeah. So that's definitely them. I don't. I think maybe these four. We talked about those being rock gnomes, and these are forest gnomes. So there might be a
Yep.
case that there's a whole different convention of names over here. But that's what we're that's the one that we're uh, uh, teetering against, right? That's the one that we're playing off of. Um, and also we know, as we're thinking about gnomes, we know a little bit about their origins from the last stream, which is that
Yep.
they are perhaps of Fey descent, right?
Yeah. More than perhaps. I think what we were talking about from last stream is that they are unequivocally connected to the Feywild.
Yes. Yes.
So they are what we referred to as small elves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, not that they can't be gnomes themselves, but they are sort of that standoffish and don't always trust people, but have this sort of magical background.
Yeah. And I think that the rock gnomes, at least in my mind, have kind of determined that they like civilization and industry a lot, right? So they have a Fey history, but they have a present of machines and technology. Whereas maybe
They're more
the
connected to that dwarf in them.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then the gnomes over here are more tied to their elven ancestry. That being said, I think they still possess the intellect, right? I think that's
Yeah, I think they're both. I think if you go back far enough, I think they're both the same, right?
yep,
They all came from the Feywild at some point.
yeah. And I think that what's important here, why they're good allies for this pirate lord, is the gnome race in entirety is a highly intelligent race, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because if you can't get rock gnomes, the next best thing is these gnomes over here, which I'm the name's escaping me, even though I just said it.
Forest gnomes,
Forest gnomes, right? Because they're still super smart. They're still problem solvers. They're still like uh,
tinkerers.
tinkerers and inventors, right? They just ply their craft towards a more natural bent over here.
They we also talked about the fact um, that the gnomes are have sort of a magic background coming from the Feywild,
Mm-hmm.
so they have some of that say magicy feel.
Mm-hmm.
So do our elemental born,
Mm-hmm.
our Revis.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a connection there as well, where they are connected sort of with that same spirit,
Yes. Yep.
where humans and dwarves and even most elves don't have that connection of just being all everyone's born with some sort of magic.
Yes. Yes. The so what we know, right? We've learned something about what this name should be, right? We know that the name of the city should be mild, at least mildly intelligent. It should not feel overly whimsical because
Yes.
they are they're a valuable ally, not a irresponsible one. So, and we know it's tucked into the trees, but in my mind, what do you imagine? We talked about this forest and this city, a little bit of the gnomes, but like in my mind, it's both a it's both a natural wonder and a wonder of invention, right? Like they've done something with the fauna that's awe-inspiring.
Yeah, I think you have there's something whimsical about gnomes as it is. I don't think it should be like Pickled Pete's, right? Because probably Pickled Pete's is the guy that sort of stood out in the town altogether before there was a an issue. Like, right? It's
Yeah,
that one guy that everybody knows because he is whimsical.
right.
He was an oddball in even the gnomes or in the gnome city.
He leaned heavy into Fae.
Yeah. So what's a good gnome name?
the The word that's popping out to me, and it's not the only word in this, and it's probably a longer version of the word, but the word that pops out to me is revel, Revel.
Yes. I also like for some reason all I can picture is the a Shire in my head, of course, from Lord of the Rings,
Yeah,
and I was just thinking like Shorty Shire because they're all little. And I'm like, well, there goes the getting rid of the whimsical aspect of
yeah,
it.
yeah, and it definitely needs to be. It definitely needs to have a little bit of that, but the and I'm again, I'm not sold on the word, but I think it's in the right direction. The word revel means like merrymaking, right? Or celebration or
Mhm.
enjoyment, but it doesn't sound like that, right? It sounds more noble, you know?
What if it was something as simple as like conifer
Ooh, like
or
name it
something that
after
has
a
to do with
tree.
trees? Yeah, or something that is like tree synonyms.
Hmm.
So
So conifers are like fir trees, right? So,
yeah,
yeah.
which is what a lot of those stickers we have on the map are. Rebels Rest is what Amengasol is saying.
Ooh, revel
I like
rest.
Rebels Rest.
Yes. I am, I think.
You're putting lots of labels in the same spot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Bear with me.
I like I like Rebels Rest a lot.
Yep. Um, yep. We're gonna do that.
Nice.
Um, that sounds cool, and I think that it's a lot like this place is a lot like Rivendell in some ways, right? Like it's tucked away, but once you get there, it's gonna be a wonder to behold. And so this
Yeah,
rest kind of helps set that tone.
yeah, and we're sort of and it's there's the splendor and there's Rebels Rest is talking about so to revel in something as you said is to sort of almost like party with a thing or to be incited by a thing. And we could use that in multiple different ways when we start talking about that city a little bit.
Perfect. So you have now named a location on our world map, and it will be in print by the end of the year. So congratulations. Sweet. Let's name one more thing in
Let's
this area.
change.
And then let's go
Let's
sniff
change that
around.
Legend Keeper tab.
Yeah. Sweet. So this city, this while you're doing that, I'll do a quick recap of this city. This city is a water genasi or a Rivas city. Um, it is partially underwater. It is kind of like Venice, if if people that lived in Venice could breathe underwater, and they built some of their houses underwater, and yada yada yada. So it is also owned right now by a pirate lord, Genasi, who is trying to legitimize his kingdom. So he's opening up trade. He's trying to explore that, but he's new to it. He's got his first ally with Revel's Rest. Um, he's got a wizard that he's working with that is in Solace Tower, and he has troops or outposts under the surface of the water. So the good thing about that is that it's very very dangerous to send a fleet or any sort of aggressive navy or naval force to this city because just like submarines, he's got people underneath the surface who can get to your boats and you have no chance of stopping them. And indeed, he is working on the world's first submersibles so that he can not just transport his own people, but also other people and goods and loot underneath the surface as well. So this is a lord that's got a lot of things going, and that this city is probably quickly becoming like a highlight of trade, right? As this pirate kingdom is opening up. Um,
I think that's our goal.
yeah. So to me, if we're gonna name this sucker, this city, this guy would have named it something that sounds appealing, right? That sounds exciting. That sounds like not like a pirate city.
It sounds open to everybody else. This
Yeah.
isn't the Tusk, which we talked about on the other side of the
The
world.
Tusk is the opposite of that. The Tusk
Yeah.
is like stay the flip away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, we've got this back and forth, which is going to be, I think, a key point of this world is that some of the world cares about coming together, and some of the world is every man for himself. So, yeah. So let's think about this water genasi. What I like to do here is I'm gonna just type in keywords into a good old thesaurus and see if something pops out
Mm-hmm.
at me, right? Um, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So a lot of times though, what I
Yes.
find with words tied to water is that they they have a weird feel to them, right? So that you don't necessarily want to name stuff. So like moisten, wet, soak, you know,
Yeah.
drench. Like these aren't words that we want to use to name
In a
our
town. Yeah.
yeah. Um, that being said, tide is a really good word.
Yes. Something's tied.
Yeah. It's like like immediately when we said tide, you said
Yeah.
something's tied. I thought King's Landing from Game of Thrones, right?
Mm-hmm.
That word has the same like punchy beat. Um,
Yeah, I like I don't think it fits here, but I like anchor's tied. I don't think it doesn't make any sense, right? Because tide and anchor doesn't really go together, but like anchor's tide feels punchy and you know what I
mhm.
mean?
Yes, 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 exactly. Tide is so, and tide might be wrong because it sounds good, but the tide comes in and the tide goes out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is if you're thinking about a town of trade, you don't that's bad that's a bad connotation, right? Or at least it's not the most positive of connotations. You want something that implies it's always great, not it's great half the time, right?
Yeah.
Current
The
could be
other
cool.
thing we the other thing we need to weigh is when we're working with any of these towns, we got to remember that there is a dragon in the middle of this area.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there's a big word
So
sitting right
that
there. Yep.
so we might want to think about at least a couple of these towns being named in honor of this dragon.
Mm,
I'm
that's
not
also
saying that this one has to be that, especially with this one being as close to the what we would call the empire as possible. But that's also something we can't forget about, that there is a dragon in the middle of our town.
Mm-hmm.
Do like Longdale Tide.
Oh.
Ooh, I love the name, and this again, this doesn't work with what we're doing now, but I love the name Hog's Feet. It's just like a little hamlet somewhere.
Mm-hmm. That's a dwarven town if I've ever heard one, right?
Yeah, or like a really poor human town, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's nothing special. It's something that you might be traveling down the thing, and it has an inn, a bar, and farms or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
It's
Hog's feet.
not something.
Hog's feet is right down the road from Hog's Mead, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Hog's Feet is just like you instantly know if you walk down the thing, you see a sign for Hog's Feet in five whatever. You know what kind of town that is as an event.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's like a town that we're gonna spend one night in.
If that.
Yes,
It
exactly.
might be that if we go through Hog's Feet, that we probably won't leave with our stuff.
Especially if we're low level. It's like if we're low level and we go through, we probably aren't leaving with our stuff. And if they're high level and we go through, there's nothing there that we want.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the word gathering now, just to see if there's anything that I like in that. That kind.
Gathering Tide would be. It seems so dark and so evil.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want that,
Like
right?
I like. I'm in a generator as well, and I like Deathfall. Deathfall Tide. It seems like an awesome name, but it also seems like the worst name that you would take things to trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Right. Union is a really good word for this sort of thing, right? If you're trying to name something that feels good, right? Union would be cool.
Ooh, how about North Pass? North Pass Tide.
North past.
Or
I'm thinking
North
about.
Pass Union, because
Well,
we are at the north of this area too. Ooh, Beggar's Hole. That is the name of a place we got to save as well.
past. I like the word past. Um, so maybe we're halfway or 2/3 of the way there. Maybe it's something past uh, Union. Um, so I'm just looking at our map here. Um, I um,
Storm Tide, he's saying.
Storm Tide. Storm Tide. Storm Tide Union.
Storm Tide in one word, or Storm Tide in two would be the next. He has it, or they have it. I guess I shouldn't be saying he, but they have it as two words. Um, but Storm Tide Union sounds pretty good too.
If you like uh, Storm Tide Union, I think I can get behind Storm Tide Union.
Yeah, it's still watery, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Without it feeling wet.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I
And
like it.
yep.
Where are you on Tuesday nights? You got to show up on Tuesdays too. We really get into it on Tuesdays.
Yes, this is the quiet stream, which is great because we're making good progress.
Yeah,
Um,
I think we're doing great. That's the whole point of doing this on another night too.
yep.
Is that I'm joking around when I say where are you on Tuesday nights. If you are free on Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern. We'd love to have you because we always need more people. The whole point of this project is to have a community-driven world.
Yes.
But the other thing is the reason we do this on Saturdays too is so we can clean up the map some and maybe get some other people that wouldn't be able to see this on a Tuesday.
That's right. Yep, yep, yep. And four big names is a big deal. So, and we know a little bit
Yeah,
more about them. So let's. So one of the things that I feel like a big thing that we need to do, you talked about, is right over here, right? That's another name we need to come up with, and that's
right over
the big
by the
city.
city.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the main city and the name of the continent are going to be our hardest things to do next.
Mm-hmm. So the what we know, I'm going to zoom all the way out here so you can see everything. What we know, oh, so how many kingdoms are there? That's a great question. There is 8 pirate lords over here in the southwest, and they make up one kingdom. This kingdom is the newest kingdom, and it is the most volatile, of course. To the south central is the Eggshell Peaks, the crater, and there's a big inciting incident that happened in this crater, and that has kind of shaken up the entirety of this world, and kind of tipped everything on its head, even shaking the pantheon at its foundations. So that's not really a kingdom; it's kind of a unclaimed area at this point. This whole eastern bank over here is in some form of isolation. Don't know a lot about it. Uh,
There's probably some sort of wall. We haven't got to it yet, but there's probably some sort of wall or river or disconnection somewhere between the Eastern Kingdom and the center of the map slash Eggshell Peaks.
That's right. The Eastern Kingdom is, to not go into a ton of lore, but the Eastern Kingdom is where, when the old gods fell, where a lot of their favored creations, the Fae and the actual Fae, and some of the monstrosities, pulled back to and claimed as their own. Now, not to say that there aren't humanoids over there, there certainly are, but this is an area that is mysterious and
It's a
wild.
high end zone.
Yes, yes. Uh, then we know. So that would be probably one considered one kingdom, but it's probably divided into a host of smaller kingdoms. There's another kingdom that we have yet to build right here in between the glaciers and our pirate kingdom, and the gnomes down there in the corner. The glaciers will have their own probably unifying force, and then there'll be two or three in this northern area. So you're probably talking three, four, five, six, seven, eight or nine true
But
kingdoms that are recognized.
yes, but I think more than anything, there's going to be, if you want to break it down into zones, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think we're talking 4 zones.
Yes. Yep.
I think we're talking the Eastern Kingdoms, which is right above where you see it says the straight, the errant strait there
Errant Crossing. Yep.
on your map, errant crossing there in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take a bridge and put it right to the right of that, basically, or a wall or a river or something that lops off the entire Eastern Kingdoms, that's one.
Mm-hmm.
The second zone is the darkened zone in the bottom left or in the bottom center, and that's your crater and sort of this big holy site. Then you have the pirate kingdoms where we've been working down here in the bottom, southwestern area, and that's a big zone. And then the other zone, all this in the north west to the center of the map, is all sort of one zone with different kingdoms scattered throughout it.
That's a good question. So this is not for Eberron. This is a whole new world that is being constructed. Um, we are referencing Eberron a lot because this will be a very tech influenced, at least in places, location like Eberron. Um, um, uh, you played in some of my Eberron content, our Eberron content at a recent con. Um, and a group of us, fell in love with the world of Eberron quite a bit. So this is one project that has some roots in that, and then there is also myself and two other DMs, Troy Sandlin, who was the um, admin for the Epics at that convention, and then another fellow named John Christian. The three of us are currently writing Eberron projects or Eberron products and putting them up on the DMs Guild. So there's one up right now, and there's about to be a couple more. So uh, anyhow, bringing up
Great.
Eberron.
If you have a chance, if you enjoy Eberron, go check it out because those are great projects.
Yep, we're having a lot of fun with them. Um, so having said that, we have a major city to name. This is the big tamale of this continent. This is um, this is akin to Waterdeep or akin to um, uh, um, Minas Tirith, right, or something like that. It's the hub of everything on the continent ends up here, and the reason that it ends up here is because we're putting it right where um, the land masses join at the smallest point, and where you can theoretically will have a river connecting the this northern sea to this central sea, and right. I'll zoom in a little bit, but right there we're going to have a big point of trade. So this
I
net.
love I love a name that sort of hits you in the stomach though also, right? I want
Mm-hmm.
something that people are connecting to.
Yep. Yep.
It doesn't have to describe what the trade that's coming through,
No.
but it could.
Yep. Waterdeep doesn't
But
tell you anything about what that town does, right?
no, neither does King's Landing, other than there is
A king there.
wherever the king is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so I guess it does. It tells you exactly what it is. It's the exact opposite of what I just said. But
Yeah. King's Landing is where a king
landed.
landed. Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, like the name Waterdeep, I think, or Baldur's Gate, both of those are perfect names for this type of a place, right? Um, Baldur's Gate. Um,
What's a glen? What's the definition of the word glen?
Glen to me is like a little forest nook. A valley.
It's a valley.
It's
So
a
that's not
valley.
probably the best thing for here.
Mm-hmm. It's got to be something.
Mm-hmm. It's got to be something that people remember and want to be at.
Mm-hmm. Like the word that I think of the most is like Metropolis, right? Which I don't want to name it Metropolis because we've already done one Superman reference. But um,
Very light Superman reference.
very light, yeah, yeah. Uh, Burrow is also a cool word, like not Burrow, but Borough.
Yeah. Farnsworth.
The name of a character on The Simpsons, right?
Like I like that. I like something that sounds like it was once a small town too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like Outpost sounds like too small, but it sort of would be cool if it was almost ironic, right?
Oh
Where
yeah.
where this was like called like, and again, I don't think this is what it should be, but like Keegan's Outpost, and then you arrive, your players arrive, and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, what happened?"
Yeah.
Well, Keegan's Outpost became, and they just never changed the name, or they're in the process of changing the name, and they keep murdering people because people try to change it, and the city revolts or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things that almost always happens with a city like this is that it's designed by committee, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
somebody probably thought of this name and it got put to a vote in a council, right? And the
Yes.
council voted it through, almost certainly. Um, so it could have been what it could have been, right? Is like it used to be called Keegan's Outpost or whatever, and then the city became more legitimized, and they transitioned the name from Keegan's Outpost to Keegansboro or whatever, right? Like we couldn't agree on anything else, so we just decided to change Outpost to Borough, and and we felt like that was good for this quarter.
Yeah, Bronze Shore Outpost or something. Like, that's the kind of thing that.
Okay, I am sold on the
What?
word bronze. I'm sold on the word bronze.
You like bronze?
I love the word bronze for this. Or brass, but there's already a city of brass. So,
Yeah, it could be called just brass, but you could say brass column den, or I mean, I'm just pulling things out of my head. That's
yeah.
the worst name I've ever made up in my entire life.
Brass bottom.
Bronze Bottom was the name of a dwarf I used to play.
Yeah, that was Binwin, right?
Was it?
Yeah, from AI was named Binwin Bronzebottom. Yeah.
Nice. I must have done that and not put two and two together
Hmm.
and made my character for Adventure League, like because I've listened to AI before,
Mm-hmm.
and I must have done like one of those things where I'm just making a character and I'm trying to think of a name,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden I'm like, Bronze Bottom sounds awesome,
Happens
and then
all the
never.
time. Yeah.
When I used to play World of Warcraft 15 years ago, when I was making my very first character ever, I was watching Lord of the Rings, and I made a character named Theoden, and the character, then every time that like my guildmates and things would see me online, they'd be like, hail to the king, or hail to the mark, or whatever. I can't remember what it was, but and I didn't understand what they meant for about
What
45
did they
days.
say? What news from the mark? Did they
Something like
say
that.
did that? Is that? Oh man.
And
Okay.
I never got it. And they all just sort of laughed it off that I pretended like it didn't happen. And then finally I caught it one day when I was rewatching the movie, because this was in the 2000s when Lord of the Rings was in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is mid 2000s when the movies are fresh and everything else. And I had read the book early on and then rewatched the movie. And I just felt like an idiot 2 months after playing, basically.
I have a weird name suggestion.
Yeah,
What about what about filigree?
just filigree.
I mean, I could be coerced into a lot of things, but I love like because this is a city. The other city is like Venice, right? But this
Mm-hmm.
city is intentionally uh, building channels to get from one place to the other, right? Like they are
Mm-hmm.
they are trying to extend out their influence quite a bit. Um, and I was thinking silver because of like a lot of times with like rivers and lakes and things, silver is used as a description, right? So initially I was thinking silver, but that kind of led me to silver by design, which ended up with filigree.
Nice. I like that. I like it.
Well, and we can. I am open to changing.
Or something
Um,
like Filigree's Rest or something like that. I'm just trying to.
There might be a word
Filigree.
after it, yes.
I'm just trying to play with like the mouth feel. If that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Filigree is a weird word, right? That's 100%
Yeah.
true. Like it's not, and it means like I mean, we all know what it is, but it's like ornamental art is
Hmm.
is the general idea, right? Um, and to me, that's a cool idea.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
What if the name was Filigree, just Filigree, but it was referred to as the City of Silver?
Or this, I'm down with that. What? How do you feel about? I know it sounds stupid, but just to get away from City of Brass comparisons, what if we named it
Okay.
Filigree, the Silver City?
Perfect.
Because
What is what do they use in Forgotten Realms? Because there's a Silver City in Forgotten Realms too.
is it Silvery Moon?
Yeah, which is more than enough different. No,
Yeah.
I was just trying to think of um, what they referred to, like Silver Moon, but that works.
So something like that, don't you think? I don't know if you can see it
Yeah,
clearly on
I
mine,
can
but
see it.
okay, cool.
I, I, yeah, I can see it through our personal stream too.
Yeah, I think, man,
Um,
to me, that tells me exactly what sort of city this is, right?
yeah, because you could, I mean, um, the best part is that you could call it the Silver City, Silver City, Silver City, and no one ever, because like the dwarves and gnomes and things like that call it the Silver City anyway, right?
Yeah, probably so.
Or something close to that.
Mm-hmm.
And people are, you could mention filigree, and your players wouldn't even know what you were talking about until they put two and two together, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, filigree is like I'm trying to think of a good example. Um, it's not like New York and the Big Apple, right? Or in my neck of the woods, it would be like Manhattan and the Little Apple, right? Um, it's not the same because nobody. I'm going to back off this. Nobody in Manhattan calls Manhattan the Little Apple in Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
In our idea, the Silver City is what the layman calls this city. Like that's their word for it, right? Probably
Hmm.
because they don't know what filigree means.
And
Right.
probably that you also have the people that refuse to call it anything but filigree.
Yes, the higher your social status or the higher you want your social status to be perceived, the more you're going to call it filigree.
What do you
Like
think of this, Amengasol? If you're still in the if you're still in the stream, just give a yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down. What else do we have here? And the other big name, the only other big name that we need right now would be the continent it's on. He likes it. He
oh,
likes it.
cool,
So
cool, cool. Well, we need to figure out this pirate kingdom because we had an issue there, remember? So early iterations of this pirate kingdom was that we were going to call this the eyes, the beholder's eyes was going to be the name of this kingdom because there's 8 pirate
mm-hmm.
lords, right? The problem is that we don't want to infringe on copyrights, and so we're going to avoid using the word beholder. So we need to come up with a new naming convention here. We also need to come up with a name for the tech city in the center of the crater, right?
Yes, but that's not as important right now. I don't think.
Yeah, yeah. We also could name any of these pirate fortresses or strongholds. So if you have ideas for pirate sounding names, we've got Stormtide Union and the Tusk as the two. So we need 6 more cool pirate sounding names, and most of these pirates on the East Coast are way more piratey than the pirates on the West Coast.
and and part of the reason why we did that is because um, that strait, that jagged strait, is probably the perfect place to sort of camp out and take over ship.
Oh yeah, this.
So that a lot of the so you see a lot of these kingdoms, as you can see by like small homes and castles and things on the side of that shore. There's a lot more. There's five on that side, so that and there's only three for the rest of the continent. So a lot of the more piratey people have found this as a home because of the ability to take over ships.
Yep. There's some really cool stuff that's happening here, but there's a lot of resources that are being harvested from Eggshell Peaks. And, this massive inland sea um, can get you a lot of places. But if you want to go from here, the inland sea, by ship anywhere else, you have to pass through the Jagged Strait. And the Jagged Strait used to be easy sailing, but when the crater impact happened, it shoved a whole bunch of earth, creating this mountain range, but also, obviously, to a smaller extent, but still to an extent, um, the, the, the plates underneath the sea got shoved and shattered and raised up. And so this strait is now very treacherous water for the uninformed. And the pirates have taken it upon themselves to become informed and thereby lay havoc upon everything that passes through here. And that's why the pirates have been able to gain a territory so quickly. Black Sail. Ooh. Um, I I think that uh, Black Black Sail is, I'm going to say, probably stepping on Disney toes, but if we can think of a different word for black or a different word for sail, I think that we're, you know,
It's one of the Pirates of the Caribbean, a black sail.
mm-hmm, um, isn't it? Or something
I'm
is
not sure.
Black Sail.
I haven't.
If not,
I
it
haven't.
should be. Oh, it's the name of, not Disney. It's the name of that show on Stars.
Gotcha.
And it's generally like Black Sail is just the name. You know what? That's the perfect name for the main stronghold, right? Because that pirate lord is gonna take a piratey name, right? Um, so Black Sail maybe down here.
Yep. Up at the top peak. I think either one.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'll move it up there. Um, Black Sail, cool. And then I love the word hold, like HOLD. I think it works
Mm-hmm.
great for it because it's a ship word and it's also a stronghold word. I think it's a good
Mm-hmm.
word for us to try to use for one of these remaining ones. Um, uh, so
I
like
also like the word hull,
hull, yeah.
which yeah, which is another ship word.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about let's see if we can come up with something for one or both of those real quick. Um, there, that's perfect.
Wretches hold. I like that too.
Wretches hold. Rich. That to me, uh, wretch to me sounds like the most despotic of all the pirates, right?
Yes.
It's probably like if uh, you know what it is. Wretches, uh, wretches hold is probably like, yeah, it describes the pirates exactly. It um, it's the pirate who's
Yeah.
going to least desire to not be a pirate, right?
Yeah, it's probably the one right here on the very bottom, right? Bottom
You think right here?
southeastern.
Yeah, this one down all the way where I had the original name, right?
Yes.
You know what I think? I think Wretch's Hold is the name of the town surrounding
Mm-hmm.
the uh, the watchtower there. To me, that makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I think that it's probably a
Black's.
it's probably a play on words, right? Um, because typically, typically, wretch is a derogatory term placed on something by someone else, right? So
Yep.
so wretch's hold is probably like if the as an example, if the city was called Ratchet Stronghold, right? Um, and then the surrounding populace went to pot, it would be called Wretch's Hold, as like somebody joking around and it stuck.
Yeah.
So let's see.
I think if we're going to name the city, we're going to have to name Black Sail. I think the Black Sail Pirates, maybe, but the city probably isn't called Black Sails, correct?
It could be. I called it Black Sail just as a way of cleaning it
Mm-hmm.
up, but it could be. Um, uh, ooh. Okay. Ketch is a sailing vessel, right?
Okay.
So if you were doing a play on words down here, right, then the stronghold could be something like Ketch's hole, right,
Mm-hmm.
as the name of the stronghold or whatever, or maybe just Ketch hole. Uh, Hall, maybe. I,
So let me read you out some of the names of the most famous pirate ships. Ooh, excuse me. Sorry, my 3D printer just went off at the time I was not expecting it to be done yet.
go for it.
Um, Black Pearl, Jolly Roger, the Adventure Galley, Queen Anne's Revenge, Fancy, Wida, the Royal Fortune. Um, so, and that's what this was. Silent Mary. So these are some of the names of the most famous pirate ships.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just to throw names out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Queen Anne's Revenge, the Ambrose Light, that's pretty much what we have for famous pirate ships.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to just get that sort of mood across. I don't think we should use any of those, but just the idea here is to sort of get those juices flowing of what.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pirate ship name generator. Let's try that bad boy. Ooh, the Hellish Scorn. I like that. The Deceit of Tainted.
I like deceit. I'm gonna put that as a placeholder one up here because I think there's a word that goes with it. But
We also are back, if we're naming these pirate towns, we should probably do something dragon related. Maybe that's the other one on the eastern coast or the western coast,
mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
the one directly above the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just saying that we don't want. I think that at least one of these wants to be playing off the idea of a dragon here. The madness of the Buccaneers. I like the word Buccaneers. Pillager is another good word.
Buccaneer to me is almost a step more modern than I feel, even though it means the same thing. Like it to me is a bit more of a modern word. Somebody can tell me that I'm
Let's
horribly
see.
wrong. Ooh, we got
Jane Johns is saying, for the black sail, you could do a nickname of like Schooner Sanctuary, which is super cool. Or any of them could be Schooner Sanctuary. Could be the name of the town.
Mm-hmm. I really like Schooner's Sanctuary.
I also like the idea that it doesn't sound unbelievably, unbelievably fighting. I mean, it sounds like any normal ship could pull into Schooner Sanctuary,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is kind of a cool idea, right?
Well, yeah, I think that he hit upon the right combination here, right? It's Schooner Sanctuary because but people call it Black Sail as like a way of like super much saying this is a pirate place, right?
Hmm.
Like it's like people trying to uh, be extra super clear that you know that it's not actually a nice place to be.
Yeah.
It's like,
And to answer your question, Amengasol, they are so the dragon was here, and they are coexisting with the dragon. They are paying a tithe to the dragon to keep them from sort of working together.
yep, the dragon the dragon basically came in and said, um, you guys are going to straighten up and you're going to give me a tithe and we're going to put some order to this land. So the dragon, we're not sure what all the dragon's motivations are yet, but what we do know is that he's getting his horde amassed. And what the pirates are getting out of it is they can tell people we have a dragon, right? And whether or not the dragon will actually do something at the pirates' behest is probably unlikely. But the pirates can use that as a way of getting more of what they want. Um, there's not a lot of war going on at this border, as an example, because are you willing to cross this border and fight pirates in their own domain when that's also a dragon's domain? Um, and then the dragon has also kind of said, like, straighten up amongst yourselves. He's trying to put a little bit of order to it. And so the pirates, who at one point were more sniping at each other, have kind of come to a loose alliance the last few decades. And the dragon is something that we definitely need to explore on a future stream. Um,
Yeah, we don't have much more time tonight.
but I think,
We've got probably another 15 minutes or so. We're gonna wrap up.
yeah, but I think that dragon could be named. I would like to figure out. So I put Sooners Sanctuary up here, and I don't like what I've put for Catches Hall. That's not gonna stick. Um, we need something with deceit. So if we could catch figure out deceit, if we could get Catches Hall, if we could get a name for this other uh, stronghold here on the coast, then we would have named the five pirate strongholds on this eastern coast, and I think that would be great.
Yeah, it would be a great place to move forward. One of the things that if anybody joins us on Tuesday, one of the things we want to accomplish for Tuesday is to sort of track down a continent name as well. And that doesn't have to tie into any of this. This could be something completely different. But we're looking for something big and eye catching for a continent name so we can keep rating some of this content.
I know that I know deceit wise, I feel like that's probably precluded by a proper name, right? So it's like not Bob, but it's Bob's Deceit, right?
Where is this? I'm sorry, I've
Uh,
lost.
that's all right. About halfway down the coast there,
Okay,
that town, I put a placeholder of Deceit.
gotcha,
Um,
gotcha. I gotcha. I
so
was looking up in Legend Keeper.
all good. Um,
Yeah. So why don't we? I mean, the thing we were looking at is that maybe one of these pirate kingdom was building, um, was sending some people over to the Eggshell Peaks, right? Some of the Korgs over to the Eggshell Peaks. What if this is the kingdom that has sort of kingdoms on both sides?
oh yeah. Yeah. Um, I'm gonna throw a word out here. Oh, one thing that I don't like
And
about this program is how the text works, but we'll figure that out later. Um,
and and Jan Johns is saying that one of the biggest settlement, of the area could be like Galleon's Guard to stay with the ship names.
what I like is maybe that these are sister strongholds up here, right,
Yeah,
right on
and
the
they're
peak.
relatively. Oh, on the peak. Okay, yep.
So we could do like Galleon's Guard here, um, as
Hmm.
like the sister stronghold's name. But it would probably also have a super piratey nickname to that people that aren't pirates would call it, right?
Yep.
Um,
Geez, we've made so many pins in Legend Keeper in just an hour and a half,
yeah, that's good.
which
That's
is
great.
awesome. Yeah.
I named that city down below. Now you can tell me if you hate it, but I named it Slab's Deceit because slab is one of my favorite ideas for a stone Genasi's name. I think that's a
Okay.
cool. And I'm like, Slab's Deceit sounds cool. Um,
Well, the question is, do we name? So if you look, the seat is also linked to our lighthouse
mm-hmm.
in the center, which
Mm-hmm.
if you click on Legend Keeper
Oh,
and refresh Legend Keeper, you can show them how our maps work in Legend Keeper.
yep. So let me check this out, guys. So I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to refresh. So if we look at this map, first off, you can tell like over here, this little dot says that it has 5 sub dots. So if I click over here, it zooms in and we now have like here's Revel's Rest. It has everything that we know about Revel's Rest so far. And here's Stormtide Union with all of its notes. And here is some notes on the Drifter and all sorts of things there. Um, if we bebop over to here, though, he's talking about this lighthouse because we know that this settlement on the left has built this lighthouse as a way for the pirates to even more be able to navigate the Jagged Strait, and they can kind of control passage there. So if I click on the lighthouse, yes, we know that it's built on by the pirates to try and control the channel, and that it might be some sort of a cool quest hub. That's about all we know of it so far. And then all the way over um, to the east, we know that this pirate kingdom has made their way to the lighthouse and then is actually trying to get a settlement of Earth Genasi going, miners going in the mountainside right here. So they got kind of a string
We've
searching.
updated that to the Korg settlement.
Yes, Korg
So,
settlement.
so maybe you have Slab's Deceit and something that connects into that. And maybe the reason it's called Deceit is because part of them have been betrayed and had to restart.
Yeah, there's an incident, a past incident as to for this deceit function, right? So, um, well, okay, this may sound dumb, but if you want to tie them together, right, it would be Slab's Deceit and Slab's Promise over on the other side, right?
Well, is it a promise or were they basically run out of Slab's town?
Yeah, that's the that's the question: is who named both of these things, right?
Hmm.
You wouldn't call it Slabs of Seed
Or
and Slabs Promise if the same person was naming it.
yeah, or these are people who are the best of their best and are sent over here
Mm-hmm.
to try to make it in. So we have some figuring out to do with that connection in Legend Keeper as well.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and delete Catches Hall before I actually think that that's a place of anything. Yep.
Did you click into the map of the lighthouse?
Ooh. Oh no, I forgot to do that. Click into the map.
Yeah, so if you click into Legend Keeper
Mm-hmm.
and click on the map,
Mm-hmm.
it has its own little, and this is in a work in progress,
Oh, there we go.
but
Yeah.
it
Yep.
shows you how you can make maps inside of maps, which is really cool.
Yes. 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 Yep. 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 So that is a quick and dirty interpretation of that lighthouse, which actually looks really good. Um, so, yep. And then you
So
can zoom out far enough.
yeah, there's no land or anything around the lighthouse now, but I threw that map together within a couple minutes just so we had something there.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to play with the double function of having that map there.
Perfect. Perfect. Um,
So
so we need in the last 3 minutes that we have here, if we can think of a cool nickname for Galleon's Guard and another name for down here, then we've at least got names for all the coastal places.
and Jay and Johns has said pirate's name for Galleon's Guard could be something like Scurvy Cove.
Uh, I it's not on a cove, but I love the word scurvy. So, um, uh, let's see. I mean, if we were gonna name it something super derogatory, which I think is hilarious, right? Then we would just call it Scurvy Town.
Scurvy Town.
Yeah, it'd be like the pirates did their best at trying to name it something intimidating, and the rest of the kingdom was, or the rest of the continent's like, no, that's Scurvy Town. It's the worst of the worst.
It's in a great place to be worst of the worst, though. Unfortunately,
Yeah. What is the bottom town again? The bottom town, we know that the town's
it's
name is
Wretch's
Wretch's
Hole.
Hold. We don't know what the name of the
That could be
stronghold.
Scurvy Town for sure.
Yeah, that's the same thing, right? Like this. So Scurvy Town is a nickname for,
Gotcha. Like Wretch's Hold is a nickname.
yes, yes. Only Scurvy Town is probably not adopted by anyone in this actual town here. It's only by outsiders.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Wretch's Hold is kind of now an owned name. Like, yeah, we're Wretch's Hold.
Yeah.
Yes, located between uh, the Tusk and Black Sail. Yep, Scurvy Town. Yep,
Oh.
yep, yep. There's a, but that's beautiful. That's beautiful. We know.
Oh, I think that since we were starting over here we're starting our book and everything in Stormtide Union. I feel like you're gonna run into people in the streets that are just making fun of Scurvy Town. Have you heard about that other kingdom
Oh, yeah.
across the continent?
You know what Scurvy Town's up to?
Scurvy Town.
Yeah, yeah,
Those people poop in the street. That place is so beneath them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and
Maybe
look at how.
Scurvy Town is the only town that doesn't have have an elemental board leader too.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. And the other thing, right, is that Scurvy Town is the closest pirate city to Filigree, which is like the
The
opposite
complete
feel.
opposite.
Yes, yes,
Filigree, you can't even get a house in town without mortgaging your entire future.
yes. Well, and also like the pirates came. They were doing a very good job at naming, right? They named it Galleon's Guard, which is like sounds very legit. Um, and then like it's a city name that can compete with Filigree, right? and
Yeah,
and every and Filigree got the Silver City as its nickname, and Galleon's
yeah.
Guard is like, nope, that's Scurvy Town.
That's Scurvy Town. Oh, ignore them. I feel like Scurvy Town launches attacks on Filigree on a regular basis,
Yeah, there's
and they're just like, "Stop it! Just stop! You don't have a chance." And then just sink the ship. It's another one from Scurvy Town.
yeah, well, so that's the thing, right? It's probably more in the pirates are a threat, right? Like they're still definitely a threat. Now they're not gonna go raid Filigree. That's too well defended.
Not
But
yet, at least.
yeah, not yet at least. But if you come out into this sea, you're begging for a beating, especially if you're a merchant
Yeah.
vessel. Um,
Jay and Johns is saying the bottom town could be
Barks,
Barques Bay. Barks Bay. I
Barks
can't.
Bay.
The QU is throwing me off. I don't know how I pronounce that.
I
Barks Bay.
yeah, probably Barks Bay. I I am not opposed. I love the word bay, so maybe that can be somewhere in here. Um, the I'd love to tie in some clever way the name of the stronghold to the name of the town. So Wretch's Hold is like the nickname that the town got, but the stronghold
Mm-hmm.
probably sounds somewhat similar. But
Yeah,
Barks Bay might be a cool name for another city in the future. Or
I'm gonna put it up. I'm gonna put it up on our pin up at the top
sounds good.
because I like that, especially because I can't pronounce it, which always would be great when I'm running adventures.
This is great. Well, and so as we're closing out here, if we get the name, that's great. But as we're closing out, um, since we have a couple of new viewers, I'll just go ahead and say that the plan is that come in about 2 months, you will see a Kickstarter go up for the very first adventure tied to this world. Um, it's going to go up on Kickstarter. I think, what do we talk about in July?
I think we
Um,
talked about in July, delivering sometime probably by September.
yep. And so you will get to play. What we know about this first adventure is that it's going to start in the Tusk, it's going to go to the Jagged Strait, and it's going to come all the way over here to a place that we're calling the unequivocally Diamond Dig Site. And that's going to be the first part of the adventure, is getting from point A to point B to point C. And then later in the year, there will be a larger product put out in a larger book that will have a full scale adventure taking you quite a ways in levels. We're not sure what the end level exactly will be, but the
Somewhere in the 12 to 15 range, I think, is what we
yep. And
correct.
yep, that is, I think that's the right range. And then
That's our goal.
uh-huh. And we'll be able to play. You'll be able to play adventures. We'll have ready to go adventures. We'll have ways for you to build your own adventures. We'll have a whole bunch of new player options, and you're going to learn all about the lore of this place. And a lot of it will be designed right here on stream. So I am in the middle of writing those adventures, and Thomas isn't obviously helping with that, and also writing a lot of the player option stuff right now. So naming
I will
things is
be
a big deal.
I will be transitioning into writing that second part here coming soon, probably this next week.
Mhm.
We will be playing as Zach said, moving from the Tusk to the unequivocally Diamond dig site. Will be played on the stream for Jasper's Game Day on Cinco de Mayo at noon.
Yep.
And we'll link to that and we'll share that multiple times. And probably this channel will be sharing that game.
Yeah.
We'll probably be forwarding the stream there.
Yep. Yep.
So,
If
um,
you'll,
if you want to come join us on the 12th, that's great. If not, we will. If you can't, if you're working, if you're dealing with kids at home, whatever it may be, and understand it's the middle of the day, it's something that we hopefully will keep on our channel too. Um, what Jasper's Game Day is a pretty cool thing. Jasper's Game Day is um, a D&D nonprofit, and what they do is they take donations and they run games and small conventions like this to try to stop and suicide in young adults.
Mm-hmm.
Fenway Jones, who is the one that runs Jasper's Game Day, lost two friends to suicide that she played tabletop games with, and she decided that it was too many, two was too many, and that she wanted to do something about it. And in just this week's online convention, they're going to stream almost 60 hours of content, and they've already raised over $10,000.
Yep. Thomas is going to be running, like he said, on May 5th at noon. You can look at the whole event calendar on their website, which is jaspersgameday.com, I believe. So you get the best DM at noon, but then later that evening you can see people like Chris Perkins and BD Waters running games for lesser games for disappointed folk.
But the big thing here is that you'll get a sneak peek into what is going to be on our first Kickstarter in July.
Yep.
You'll get to see that there.
Yep.
Then hopefully that by the time that drops, we'll have a second Kickstarter coming out in September, and these are just a couple bucks for a PDF, and then a couple more bucks for like a zine sort of situation we're hoping for. And then the full book will be in November time.
Yep, cool. Awesome. John's, I added Humber Hole to the bottom because that is exactly the type of thing that I was looking for. So you have Humber Hole as the stronghold, and then Wretch's Hold is the town around it. So perfect. I think, Thomas, unless you have anything else you want to do, that's a great spot to end tonight's stream. We'll be live again 2 times next week. On Monday, you can watch me run a group of adventurers through a dungeon that I wrote. We're going to be starting that with a session 0 starting at 9 p.m. Central and diving into the full adventure probably around 10:30. And that'll be in every other week on Monday moving forward. And then Tuesday, you can catch the continuation of the World Builders stream at 9 p.m. Central again. So
awesome.
I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Absolutely. Welcome, Bengasol, if you're still in the chat. It was great to have you. You brought in some great knowledge and some great names, and hopefully we see you back either on a Tuesday night or a Saturday night makeup sesh.
Yep. We'll see you guys later.